It's like the temptation between Frodo and Sam to... Hello there, my dear banana boys and girls, and also hey to you, Liam and Sophie. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. We are neither the banana boys nor
That's
girls.
great. Enough of that. And so today
I didn't even get to tell you how I was doing.
Irrelevant.
Sorry.
Irrelevant.
Now, how you guys actually doing?
Story of my life.
I'm
It's alright, move
depressed,
on,
I
move on,
suppose.
move on.
No, I insist.
I'll save this for my therapy.
Sophie, this is your therapy.
This is therapy. What do you mean? Yeah. And he asked me how I was doing, and then he just kept talking.
I feel like I'm
He doesn't even
invisible.
care. I do care how you guys are feeling, but it's not quite as important as our topic today, which is Demon Slayer, which
Agreed.
objectively is more important than the health of human beings. I hope you agree.
More important than the feelings of all human beings.
The new anime season has started, or is starting this week. I think the first episode is
Has
already
started.
out.
You've not seen
Yeah.
it?
Has
you not
has
watched it,
started. I
Manu?
have seen it.
I thought that's what we were supposed to do.
Wasn't that homework?
Don't break. Oh my god, I was getting there. But yes, so the first episode is out by the time this podcast is out. Probably the fourth episode is out. Is my maths correct on that?
Third or fourth, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm not sure myself, actually.
And so we thought, why not piggy bank of the launch of the new season of maybe the most, or the biggest and most popular modern anime of this generation, and to talk a little bit about our experience with it, if it's a good story, or if it might suck and is overhyped and overrated, or if it's something in between.
Firstly, before we get into it, I just love your use of the word piggy bank. Like, it is meant to be piggyback, but I think piggy bank is also incredibly appropriate.
Did I say piggy bank?
Yeah.
I'll take it. I'll stand by it.
Bit of a Freudian slip there, but yeah, it's fine. No. I think that's what making hot content on YouTube is. It's piggy banking.
It is piggy banking.
That's very true.
That's what I meant to say. Of course, it was on purpose to see if you guys would catch my slip.
That's what I'll be calling it from now on, because I think it's actually a much more phenomenal term.
I'm trying to remember. There was like another phrase that I always like slightly misused.
You used the word sublime instead of subliminal, I think, one episode. This was a recent episode, and the only reason why I know is because I was watching
Sublime messaging.
Yeah, you talked about sublime messaging, but I think it was also in the context of like Nazi Germany and Attack on Titan.
All right. Very good. So nothing wrong with that, basically.
Sublime Nazi messaging in that Attack on Titan.
I think also like one word, it took me a while to like figure that one out. Like only started using it basically when I started making YouTube videos. I said flashing something out when it's like actually fleshing something out.
So I just want to flash this
Flashing
out, guys.
something out. I mean,
I
it
don't
does
know.
make sense. Like, I have to reveal everything.
I suppose so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they both involve flesh in some way, metaphoric or...
Yeah.
Okay, guys, I need to meet this one out.
Yeah, why is it called fleshing it out? Like giving it flesh because it's only the bones and you're like putting
Yeah.
meat on the skeleton?
Exactly.
Is
So
that
the
it? Okay.
skeleton is like the basic, and then the flesh is, it's where
The substance.
it's where the real meat, the substance of the
That makes a lot of sense. Do you ever like ask yourself a question and while you're asking someone, you kind of want to get the answer to that? That's what just happened to me. Like, why is that?
You did answer it as you were asking, actually. Is it because it's the bone and then you flesh it out?
Yeah, I was like, oh, actually, that makes a lot of sense. But going back to Demon Slayer, where there's also a lot of like flesh and cutting and stuff like that.
Just a lot of flesh in general.
What's your guys' journey with Demon Slayer? Is it something like were you guys caught up before this episode, or did you catch up for this episode in particular? Are you a fan? Not a fan?
Sophie and I have a complicated relationship with Demon Slayer because we were supposed to see a movie and then it didn't happen.
No, because it wasn't in fact a movie. Although I recently found out whilst watching this episode that the first episode does indeed go for almost an hour. So it's a decent episode.
I regret not seeing it in the cinema, actually.
I was actually going to ask you, do you regret not watching it in the theater? And obviously you just said, yes, you do regret not watching it in the theater.
Yeah, if only for that first scene with all of the upper
Exactly.
moons. I
Yes,
think that was
exactly.
astonishing. That was really, really good. Cinematic as fuck.
Well, we're already kind of at the first point.
I sense disagreements within the group.
No, not at all. No, just the opposite. I think, and this is actually not only the biggest selling point of Demon Slayer, but also something I'm very grateful for, is the animation and the artwork. Like, with its very first season already set like an incredibly high standard and new standard for the industry, and I feel like every season and every movie that has come out for Demon Slayer has like reset those kind of standards for the industry. And I feel like as a consequence, a lot of studios who did get away with fairly mediocre to bad animation beforehand.
Who could that be?
The flawless CGI in blue line. But I do feel like, and I wonder if you guys agree, I do feel like overall the anime industry has seen quite a rise in high quality animation since Demon Slayer, and there's more and more shows trying to not only be good enough, but actually compete with Demon Slayer on that level, which I think has been fantastic.
I was gonna say, if I'm perfectly honest with the two of you, I think the best part about Demon Slayer has been its ripple effect on anime in general. The series itself, I quite enjoy, but the fact that it has dragged so many other studios kicking and screaming towards this place of enhanced quality, I think has been fantastic.
Yeah, into the 21st century.
Yeah, finally. It took a long time for us to get there, but something finally did it.
It's basically one studio, like, finally, it's Ufotable, right?
Yeah, Ufotable.
Yeah, so whatever its pronunciation might be of this weird
Ufotable.
of words. It's a
Ufotable.
Ufotable.
Ufotable?
But like they were the first studio that were like, what if we took a Makoto Shinkai movie and did that for like every episode of a season, kind of.
To be fair, they've been doing that for quite a few series, because they did the Fate Stay Night, what was it, Unlimited Blade Works?
Have not watched either of
There's
those.
a lot of those.
Yeah, like they've had a very good rep for quite some time, but Demon Slayer was the thing that really exploded.
But then that one's still fairly old, no? Isn't like Fate Night Stay? That seems.
Fate Stay Night gets confusing. The original Fate Stay Night is very old now. In fact, Unlimited Blade Works is probably also considered old now, but it's significantly more new than Fate Stay Night. Because I was watching Fate Stay Night in high school.
But the animation was done at a high standard for those?
Fate Stay Night probably has not held up. Unlimited Blade Works, I would say, definitely has. Like, definitely has.
I'll have to check them out then.
You can sense, like, the seeds of what's happening in Demon Slayer when you watch it.
It's like early 10s, I want to say.
Yeah, it was 2015, so recent-ish in the grand scheme of anime, 8 years ago.
But then they definitely did step up their game from there. But it's interesting to see that they like did experiment with that beforehand.
They're well known for experimenting with quality.
But it's definitely true that Demon Slayer is the one that sort of like has boomed. I mean, I think you opened with it, Manu. It's probably the most popular anime of, I guess the new generation.
And manga.
And I think
Definitely
that's
go
like
to
a
that.
big reason compared to maybe previous works, that Demon Slayer had such an international impact compared to like previous series like these, where like other studios were like, oh, there's a lot of people watching this and like a lot of money to be like. Demon Slayer brought in a whole new generation of people watching anime. You kind of started with like the OGs, where it's kind of the Dragon Ball era, and then kind of like as the direct disciples of that, the big three. So you have like Naruto, One Piece, and Bleach. And then after that, you could arguably, I'd say there's like a bit of a gap, and then you have Attack on Titan, which was like a really big craze for the first time again internationally. Again, kind of a break there, and then Demon Slayer is kind of like the fourth generation, if you want to call it that.
My
Fourth
Hero
wave.
Academia as well. My Hero Academia was very popular.
First season, it was a phenomenon, but it
I think
it never
so.
reached Demon Slayer levels, and
No.
that's because nothing else ever has.
On that point, Demon Slayer has also made my mum a very popular woman at work, because I think I've told you guys that she's a librarian.
I was like, Demon Slayer
Yeah.
has made my mom, and then it's like finish the. It's like what's the show with the what is it, Harvey? What's his name? And he's like looking for the top answers.
Oh, Family Feud.
Demon Slayer has made my mom. For 10 points. What is it?
No, it's just made her very popular with the young kids that go to her community library. But she, upon my recommendation, ordered Demon Slayer in Korean for her library, and then that made her the most popular woman at work. And everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, how do you know this? How do you know this manga? How do you know this anime?" And now she's under a lot of pressure to continue to buy a new manga series like every year. So that pressure comes onto me to think of finished manga series that aren't too long because it's a small community library, so they don't actually have a huge budget to like buy, I don't know, like, you know, the 100 volumes of One Piece, for example, even though that's what my recommendation
That's actually very wholesome, though.
Yeah.
That's really
That would be
cool.
good, yeah.
It's nice that it's getting people to read, getting people into a library. It's like the Harry Potter of my generation, what that was.
Yeah, you might know this, but what is a library?
Okay, so I have to look this up, sorry. I used to know the answer to this, but it's like a building
Okay.
with, I think, lots of scrolls, handwritten scrolls that you wouldn't be able to check them out, and you would have to take a candle down to the basement to sort of go through them where they were all kept.
No, it's written on like cuneiforms. They had to like hammer in to stone.
Oh, do you want to learn a fun fact that I learned today?
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it's like why some languages are written from left to right while others are written from right to left. And basically, apparently, there's like a correlation where languages like Arabic or Hebrew that are written from right to left come from regions where there was like paper was introduced fairly late, and so like writing was initially done on stone, and since everyone's like right-handed, you would not see anything if you like hammered from left to right. So you did it the other way, so you could actually read what you're writing, while like if you had paper, it's the other way around because you do write with your right hand.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I feel like it's really weird. Like I feel like I was just sitting over like a little bit to the side. It's just like almost like a little time slip happened right there, because we were just talking about the thing, and now we all completely forgot what it actually was, the last thing that we talked about, and we're just switching topics like that, which brings us back to Demon Slayer.
Smooth.
Some good transitional breathing there.
So outside of the entire animation story, like, which is I would argue, and I wonder if you agree, like the biggest thing about Demon Slayer that obviously has like a major impact on its success. How do you guys feel about the story? Because I do feel like while some people you always have like with anything that's super popular, you have both direction where some people say like, oh, Demon Slayer is like people only love it for its animation, and other people are like, no, it's like actually very like just hating. It's actually such a good story. Where you guys stand on anything outside of the visuals?
After you, Sophie.
I don't think I'm a hater. I wouldn't call myself a hater.
I'm not a hater, but...
I'm not a hater, but I think it's the worst. No, I feel like I've been the hater ever since we've started discussing anime. No, I'm seriously not a hater, but I definitely do fall on the side of I think Demon Slayer is a bit lacking when it comes to the story itself. I think it's enjoyable enough. It just doesn't have the level of depth I've come to appreciate about other series, is how I would put it. And this is going into even the animation. So Liam, you said that you actually wished you saw the first episode in the cinemas like we planned before we realized what UFO Table and I guess Shueisha's plan for money making was.
Before you realized. I knew all along.
Oh, I didn't realize you knew all along. Oh, okay. Why didn't you tell me?
Well, I thought you did because you're like, you want to go see this? So I looked it up. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. Sounds fun.
Oh, okay. Well, you should have
And then
told
you
me
were like,
that.
no, I don't want to.
Well, I mean, I just figured I had just watched the last 2 episodes because I had to binge the last season so that I could catch up before the movie comes out. And so it was like, oh, I'm just going to watch the last 2 episodes again. To be fair, the last 2 episodes of that last season was phenomenal. Like, the action in the last season, like, I think it took up pretty much half the season, was just bam, 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 bam. But again, like, it's just action, right? And like, in terms of storytelling, I do think is it Daki and is it Gyutaru? I think the brother's name was.
Daki, or her real name was Ume, is what I remember.
Ume is the sister, and I think the
Gyotaro?
brother was Gyutaru. Either way, you guys know who I'm talking about. I did like their relationship. It's like the structure of each season is very much the same though. It's sort of like they go on a new mission, they face their first demon, and then they end up finding out that this demon isn't actually the main demon, so they face an even scarier demon.
With a Hashira.
Yeah, exactly. Enter a Hashira.
But there will be another even more scarier demon.
And now, the Swordsmith Village arc, you know what it's done to really mix up that formula? This time, they've gone to a place and they're going to face 2 demons with 2 Hashira. This is revolutionary.
But they've also left out Inosuke and Zenitsu.
Zenitsu, so far, yeah.
I mean, Inosuke came out in that first episode, but it seems like Tanjiro's in Swordsmith Village by himself. I don't know if he's going to appear
At the
later,
moment,
but...
yeah, me neither. So this is getting to the point where I stopped reading Demon Slayer because I encountered the first part of the Swordsmith Village, and like you, I was like, so we've kind of done this 3 times already. I think I'm good. With that that said, I really like the concept of the Swordsmith Village because they're my favorite thing about Demon Slayer. I love the swordsmiths and their masks and their
The
attitudes.
swords or the swordsmiths?
Their culture. The swordsmiths. Especially Tanjiro's one, who just writes him hate mail.
You can kind of tell that Demon Slayer takes like a lot of elements from like different shows, kind of takes things that are proven to work and doesn't take like any crazy risks with what it does, but at the same time I think it has like a unique enough premise, so I don't think it's boring. The premise is fairly interesting. I think it's unique. I think always having a nice mix between like in real life setting and like a mythical element to it is always very interesting, and I think it's always very unique going back in time. Like for example, that's why I really enjoyed like Golden Kamuy, which is something that plays like in the late 1900s in like during the Russian-Japanese war in Hokkaido. Is you can actually create a whole bunch of originality and creativity by just like picking a time no one has like talked about too much about a certain topic. So I think it does that well. It kind of, as you just mentioned, kind of goes through the classic Bleach. We get a power up and then we go through the whole arc again. New bad boy.
I don't know if I would go so far as to wash it with Bleach. I think that is a more egregious offender if we get the power-ups and then new big villain and then more power-ups.
No, but you can kind of see that classic shonen like formula.
You can definitely see it. It's a classic shonen in every single way.
Yeah, weak, idealistic young boy.
Classic formulaic.
Gets confronted with like something that goes against his ideals. He has to go stronger and stronger opponents, and then kind of like rinse and repeat it to a certain degree.
With a group of like ranked opponents, which we've been seeing since the days of the Espada, Akatsuki.
Yeah.
Classic.
So as someone who's I've read the entire manga.
Wow.
And I will say that, yes. Good on me.
Certified weeb here.
Yeah, I will say I think the anime adaptation like is what clearly made this entire show.
I haven't read the manga and I will claim that. Not the entire manga, but still.
The manga is like entertaining enough, but it's really nothing. It does not stand out at all, especially compared to other manga who you kind of feel like, oh, this is going to be the next big thing. One for example, like I started reading the manga like 2 years ago was Kaiju number 8, and I was like, that should be an anime, and like they're finally making one about it. But like with Demon Slayer, it's fun. It's nothing too special, but then they kind of took this good but not standout like manga series and kind of applied fantastic visuals, fantastic music, fantastic animation, great voice act, like everything.
Music is something that I'm really glad you brought up, because when the Demon Slayer discussion comes up, everyone just busies themselves jerking off over the animation and how cool the visuals are, but the really undersold feature of the anime is music and sound. It's not just the visuals. Visuals are just what punch you in the face the most. It is everything working together that takes what is, in my opinion, a fairly bland story and elevates it into the perfect anime adaptation that I wish everything had.
It definitely feels much more like a cinematic experience. And that's why I would agree with you that I wouldn't have actually minded going to watch this first episode in the theaters, because I feel like that's what it was actually designed for.
Well, I wouldn't want to bother you.
I feel like that's what it was designed for, because actually watching it at home, it kind of felt like, oh, they're doing a bit much and it doesn't have much substance. Whereas I feel like if I was in the cinemas, because you'd be enjoying it within the atmosphere of like a dark,
you'd be engulfed.
Exactly, you'd be engulfed in that atmosphere.
Immersed.
I think I would have enjoyed it a lot more. Whereas in the first one, it just felt like at home I was just like, there is so much happening right now, and I don't know what the point of all of this is. I was like, bam, 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 different angle, different perspective, like it was
point
just
of
a
it
bit
was
much.
to like I said, immerse you in that world of whatever the fuck wherever the fuck Muzan lives, to kind of get you lost and confused, and just really taking advantage of the medium that is television/film in general, which most anime do not do. They kind of adapt straight manga panel to manga panel, and Demon Slayer is like, wait a minute, we have a different medium. Can we do things differently?
And we can do this way better. And I feel like this is the reason why, like, despite kind of somewhat shitting on the story, Demon Slayer just deserves praise straight out for being fun to watch, because there is only a limited amount of studios that kind of like dare to do things differently and try to have fun with the medium that they have access to. And I do understand, obviously, it's the same with Hollywood, where it's like, oh, we can make a really really creative movie that's like, you know, trying to do something new that's like never been done before, like be original, be like innovative. But at the same time, why should I spend like, you know, we have to get money for that. Why not just make the same thing that's been working for the last 10 years that everyone has been watching, like another superhero movie with like, ooh, crossover, whatever. Like, not shitting on Marvel, but like there's like formulas that have just been, I feel like you've probably also been seeing like 10 video essays on like why Hollywood has become so mediocre.
I've been specifically seeing a lot of decline of Marvel video essays as well. Also, just like to say, Everything Everywhere All at Once swept the Oscars. Creative film, fairly low budget.
Have you watched it yet, Manu, actually?
Not yet. It's on my list. I can't believe I
gotta
still
do
haven't
it.
watched it yet. It's definitely on my list. Yeah, I'm very excited.
That is the reason why you take risks, because you get stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same for anime. I know like there are these gigantic production companies, and you have like old Japanese guys sitting, you know, in the chair there, in the chairs, and they're like, oh, we have this new series. Committees is what I'm. Yeah, thank you, chairman is what I was thinking. Yeah, in the committees, and they're like, oh, we could either, you know, like do something completely crazy and like invest 3 times the money we usually have in our animation budget,
or we could just do what we've been doing for the past 4 decades. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why it's so much fun watching something like Demon Slayer that does things fresh and differently. It's something I've been like yearning for, having like an anime where like every screen, like whenever you pause, it could technically be a wallpaper for your, you know, for your like laptop or for your desktop, making use of that medium. And I can only imagine how mad some of the other animation studios must have been that now they're actually under pressure to deliver at least on a higher level that they've done before.
They have competition now.
Yeah, some of them just probably don't even have, like, they have to build the resources first to actually, you know, get to that level
that scale. Yeah,
where they have
sure.
enough animators.
Not to bring this to what we always do, but that's exactly what had to happen with One Piece. I think it was a massive wake-up call for Toei, who all of a sudden just dumped their art directors and brought in whole new teams.
That was so random also, that where like suddenly the like One Piece manga looked like Demon Slayer. Like
where they did all the aura and like all the flashy stuff.
We shit on the aura, but the overcorrection is still a step in the right direction.
It is. And I think they started to fix it.
I think the problem will always just be with the pacing with One Piece, which we've gone into enough. But I think funny enough,
Yeah, we've had that discussion.
Have we had that discussion? I don't know.
We can have it again, absolutely.
I mean, if we are going to talk about it though, I feel like pacing in Demon Slayer with this animation is also quite interesting though, because I feel like they were on a really great track, and then I do feel like, is it really necessary for them to make Mugen the movie and then have a season of Mugen in like 7 episodes? Even this first episode of this new season, I feel like it didn't need to be like 50 minutes or 40 minutes or whatever it was. But
This first episode?
yeah.
The first episode of season 3 I thought was quite well paced. I enjoyed it. I legitimately
enjoyed it.
With Mugen Train, I definitely don't think they needed to make that part of the last season. It was already a movie, and it reminds me of what they did with Dragon Ball Super, which is that started out as a film series. They released 2 films, and then they were like, let's make this a TV show instead. So they went back and they redid the story of the first 2 movies and then carried it on.
It just really displays that they are aware that, of course, Demon Slayer is like a very short series. What is it, 200 chapters or something? And they're going to run out of materials very quickly, and they need to cash in as much as they can now. So we're gonna make the movie, gonna make the season, gonna release the first episode as a movie, and then gonna release it as part of the season.
I mean, if you're in their shoes, you've got one of the highest grossing animated films of all time with Mugen Train just sitting there. You're like, why not release a sort of half movie? That'll do good. It made shocking amounts of money. People ate it up.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
I think the movie, like the fact that movies are becoming more and more a thing, and like canon movies with that, is like a really nice step in the right direction. Another thing I personally would credit to Demon Slayer, though I might be wrong, but I feel like it was like the first like big canon anime movie I was at least aware of that I went to watch, and then afterwards you had like Jujutsu Kaisen Film Zero, you had I think Slime, and that's something I'm like totally on board with, which we had the One Piece film discussion many times, as well as the weekly release schedule, where I feel like movies are a great way to take certain events in the story that might not be long enough for a whole arc, but too long for like just splitting it into a few episodes. So why not turn this into a really cinematic experience with even better animation, like orchestral music and so on and so forth. And bringing it back to something like One Piece, imagine if like One Piece, the war at Marineford had been an act, like it was as good as it already was. Imagine it like in the cinema, like with
the anime?
as a 1 hour 30. Yeah,
I don't remember it being that great in the anime.
I thought it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
It was very slow. There were lots of reactions. Anyway, we don't need to go into that. We've made a decision not to talk
Just
about
saying.
One Piece pacing.
Yeah, but just imagine like these moments where you could actually tell certain fantastic events in like a concise 90-minute way.
They have tried to do that when they did the remix of Alabasta and Drum Island. The Alabasta one didn't work out very well because they bit off a bit too much, but the Drum Island one was actually pretty good. Pretty short enough arc, concise, movie-ish.
And I would argue the reason why they stopped doing this is simply because they like remade parts of the anime instead of focusing on something that hasn't happened yet, where people were like, I want to know what happens
People
next.
have already watched it.
We're like, I feel like there's medium to hardcore One Piece fan. You're not like, I need to rewatch this, but in a different format.
I also think that Drum Island, Alabasta, they're all quite long arcs in and of themselves. Like even the episode of East Blue, I think it's fun to watch, but it leaves out like a lot of really critical points within, I guess, within that first saga. Whereas the way that I would like to see it done is, for example, start working on the God Valley movie now, release it at the same time that Oda reaches writing and revealing the God Valley flashback in the manga, so that we all stop reading the manga for 2 weeks, watch the anime, Oda gets a break, and then, gets to continue writing the manga again.
Yeah, but that's going to come with its own problems, because Japan will get it in that 2 weeks, and then it'll take like 3 months for us to get it.
We've had this discussion. There is like in the world that we live in the 21st century that we live in, there is no reason why we cannot have a globalized release.
I agree with you, and yet we cannot have a globalized release. I don't make the rules, the committees do. They have their things, they have their agreements. If something like that did happen, I would fly to Japan to see it, legitimately.
Yeah, but even going just back to pacing in Demon Slayer, I think this goes back to the storytelling as well, and I guess the repetitive nature of it. I find the pacing of the story quite strange, in the sense that I feel like the story itself is going quite slowly, considering we're about halfway through the series, and we haven't made much of a headway yet. Like, the feeling that I get of it is that everything's going to happen in like the last season or so, and that's what I've been told.
I do find the pacing quite slow in the latter part of the second season, because it is very action-centric, and
that is true.
As beautiful as the action is, and this is the biggest first world, I have too much food to eat and that's my problem kind of problem, I do feel like it can get a bit fatiguing to just be going through action piece after action piece after action piece after action piece. As beautiful as they are, there's not a lot to really break that up when the big action starts happening. Or at the very least in the last season. I think season 1 did it a lot better because it had shorter arcs.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I agree.
Personally really enjoyed it though. I was just like,
I definitely enjoyed it, but it is, to me, it does get a bit
action orgy.
Samey. I'll tell you something I both enjoy and really do not enjoy. The villains of Demon Slayer. They have me really conflicted, because I feel like I spend 99% of the time when they're on screen not caring about them at all. They're just caricatures of
until
evil.
they're almost dead.
Until they're almost dead, and then they have these most tragic, heart-wrenching flashbacks. I'm like, oh, I actually like you. And I guess I kind of wish that sort of stuff was woven in a bit earlier, because for the most part, I just find them to be cardboard cutouty sorts of demons. It's X demon with Y ability. And then, at the very end, they turn out to be this amazing character, but by then it's too late, because they're already dead.
I'm very interested to see what the backstory of these upper demons that we've got in the Swordsmith village, because they're probably the 2 demons that have interested me the least out of all the upper demons in that first episode, and I'm like...
Really?
I think it's their design.
Not a big fan of Potboy?
I'm really not a fan of... I don't know what to call it. like body horror.
Okay. So you don't like the eye mounts.
Yeah, I don't like the eye mouths. It really creeps me out. It was like I used to get really creeped out with is it Deidara in Naruto, where he has the hand on his mouth?
Yeah.
Yeah, it freaked me, like, it really creeped me out. And so watching it in this episode, I was like, ugh, every time when he starts talking from and I understand that's probably the effect that they are trying to go for, but
it's a demon.
I think it actually turns me off.
That's fascinating because Pot Demon is my favorite one. I don't remember his name. He's like Upper Moon 5 or whatever. I don't care, but I just love that he like lives in a pot. He's different. The other's kind of meh, you've got your Upper Moon 1 who's like the standard, I'm the cool, powerful guy. You've got your Upper Moon 2, which is like the standard, I'm really powerful but really flamboyant. You've got your Upper Moon 3 who's just like, I'm really tense and full of rage. And I guess the Upper Moon 4 is kind of interesting. The guy is just sort of scared on the sideline, yeah. But otherwise, I'm full on Team Pot.
Team Pot.
Team Pot.
Legalize.
I'm really excited to see that guy just because he presents something really different. He's the first demon I've really seen and gone, you're kind of interesting.
That's what you get when you like kind of spend some time on writing a bit of a unique and interesting character, I guess. It immediately pays off.
Depending on your preferences for eye mounts, yes.
At least like you have an opinion about it.
I will say, I don't enjoy looking at him. I find like the baby limbs that stick out of his head really weird, but I am like bizarrely captivated by his existence in a way that I don't care about literally any of the others.
Upper Demon 1 doesn't intrigue you as to why he looks like the man that helped out Tanjiro's dad?
Yeah, it doesn't intrigue me because it's going to be probably a really standard-y story. I don't care. I want the weird one.
Alright. I mean, we are talking to Whoop Slap's biggest fan, so
Whoop Slap,
give you that.
Carabo, St. Charles, throw them all my way.
Around this time last year, I think I told you guys how my parents completely ruined the 007 series for me.
Yes, you told
I
us
made
that.
the mistake
Is there an update?
this past weekend of watching the last 007 movie with them. So for context, we just had the Easter long weekend and I had a lot of time spent at home and I thought I'll spend it more with my parents because I haven't seen them a lot recently. My dad just came back from Korea and we were discussing movies over dinner. And the exact same conversation that happened almost a year prior happened again when they were discussing something about the 007 movies. And I made the comment that I haven't watched this final 007 movie. Or I think I said I haven't watched anything past Quantum of Solace. And my dad turns to me and goes, why? Don't you like 007? Which is the exact same response that he gave me last year when I told him I hadn't watched any of the 007 movies. Why? You don't like 007? What do you have against James Bond? And so the reason why I hadn't watched Skyfall is because the year before when I watched Casino Royale, they ruined the movie by talking incessantly, just constantly throughout the entire film between the two of them. And then after watching Quantum of Solace with just my mum, where she, to her credit, didn't talk for majority of the film, as soon as the film ended, turned to me and said, in the next one, M dies. So, which is the reason why I didn't watch Skyfall. So this time round, because they kept talking about it again, mum was like, why don't we watch a movie tonight? We're all home, let's watch a movie tonight, we don't have work tomorrow. And then dad was like, okay, yeah, we should watch 007. And I said, all right, well then let's watch Skyfall because I haven't watched Skyfall yet. And I'm a person, like, if I'm watching a series, I like to watch it in order. I'm not a big fan of watching things out of order, but dad was like, no, I've watched it like 3 times. I don't want to watch Skyfall. Let's watch the last one, like this latest one. This latest one is good. And I asked him, but if I'm watching the last one
with Daniel Craig?
Yes, the last one with Daniel Craig,
Spectre?
No Time to Die. No, No Time to Die.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one after Spectre. Oh my god, I am so
final
far removed
one.
from this.
It came out, yeah, the final one.
The final
part 2.
one.
I had no idea.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
Wow.
Because it's the last one with Daniel Craig being James Bond.
And is there time to die?
You're just gonna have to find out.
I'm probably not gonna watch it.
You're probably not going to watch it after I tell this story. So, I asked my dad, but if I watch this last film and I haven't watched the other 2 before that, like, aren't they going to be, plot holes, or aren't I going to be missing things? Like, aren't I going to be missing details that I need to know? And he goes, no, don't worry about it. There's not much, continuity between the films. And I was like, it's a running story, but you know what? Whatever. I'm not that heavily invested into the 007 series, so I'll watch it just to make mum and dad happy and do something nice with them. Biggest mistake of my life. My dad, after having just said that the last 007 film is really good, he really enjoys it, I later found out that he doesn't have any recollection of the film whatsoever, because I shit you not, we were pausing the film every 3 minutes, every 5 minutes, and he was turning to ask me, so wait, so I don't quite understand this. So how is he related to that villain, and how is she related to that villain?
I despise movie pauses. I think pausing is worse than just talking through it.
Yes, because it breaks the sequence and
Breaks the flow.
to cut him a bit of slack. English isn't his first language, so I do understand that things might be a bit difficult to understand, like certain plot lines.
Especially with British English.
Yeah, British English, where there are no Korean subtitles. So I will grant him that. But he had watched this movie twice before he had watched it with me. And my mum, who came to Australia the same time he has, did not need to ask me a single thing. But of course, because Dad was discussing the film, continued to discuss the film with him to again spoil the ending for me halfway throughout. And it was this weekend that I decided I will never, ever again.
You know what you should do, Sophie? You should post a Reddit thread about this. I think that's what people normally do when they get spoiled.
Oh.
That is true.
Am I the asshole?
Accusing your father.
Yeah, I want to dig a bit deeper here. What is with your parents and James Bond? Because this seems to be like their One Piece.
Yeah.
I've never known anyone who is thoroughly invested in James Bond to watch the films more than once. It's just a thing that it exists, you see it, it's fun, and then you promptly forget it and move on with your
I would
life.
disagree. I do know people who do watch the movies quite often.
Quite often as well.
I wouldn't say One Piece, Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings level where they're like, I need to watch a video, like theory, like M is actually
Bond
working for the
series.
CIA.
Zombie M returns from the grave.
Or I'm just gonna look this up now.
I'm sure there are. There are theories about everything.
There are, but I would say it's not that level, but I do think there's people who are like that and like fairly invested in the series and in the franchise.
Apparently James Bond has an IQ of 150.
It's a cool fact. But to answer your question about my parents specifically, it's because my dad is a lover of action films. He really likes the action genre, whereas my mum isn't all that into the action genre. But because Dad always chooses the films, all they watch is action. And I think 007 is the first sort of, I guess, series or franchise where Mum also enjoyed the series. So whereas with all the other films that Dad chooses, she just sort of reluctantly and begrudgingly watches everything that he turns on. This is the first one where they actually both enjoy it. And my dad, for someone who likes action, he really doesn't like sci-fi. He doesn't like sci-fi and he doesn't like horror.
Oh, that's an unfortunate match.
So the type of, I guess, action films that he can watch is like very limited.
Limited to modern day.
Yeah.
Has your dad seen The Raid?
I don't know.
2 Indonesian films, I believe. Some of the best action films ever created.
Never heard of it.
It's essentially very simple premise. A group of police officers storm an apartment block held by drug dealers. Go. It's just a solid action movie.
I mean, sounds good.
Well, I mean, it fits your dad's parameters.
I will suggest it to him. I will not watch it with him. I will watch that in my own time. Thank you.
You should. Highly recommended, The Raid, by the way. Fantastic. But other than like the Bourne series or like Mission Impossible, I'm not really sure what falls into.
Yes, he likes Bourne. He likes Mission Impossible.
What is it, the Liam Neeson one? What's that one?
Taken.
I will find you.
Taken, yeah.
Yeah,
Taken.
Is it Taken?
I have a very particular set of skills.
Dad also really doesn't like anything where it strays too far from reality, which I find hilarious because Bond driving around with
James
this super
Bond.
high-tech
Has he seen
cars,
Moonraker?
pulling off
Very realistic.
all of these crazy stunts.
My name is Pussy Galore.
He's like, no, but
realistic.
you can believe it. You can believe it.
I guess in his defense, the Daniel Craig Bonds have been the most like realistic and gritty, but before that, Bond was just like complete schlock. There was very little realistic about it.
To be fair as well, he only likes the Daniel Craig Bond films.
The more realistic
And
ones.
I think he really liked Casino Royale because he said that it was like the first film that really, I don't know, revolutionized the series, like the series and the franchise, and made it a franchise worth watching.
Yeah, interesting. A lot of people might say the opposite, but it's been fairly successful. Where does your dad stand on something like Inception? Is that too unrealistic for an action film?
It goes way over his head. He doesn't like the amount of dialogue because I don't think he understands it particularly well unless he was watching it with subtitles, which I think that's fair, but I think it's also still too sci-fi for him.
Would you call Inception sci-fi?
I wouldn't, but there
Maybe?
are, like, it touches on sort of sci-fi-ish concepts.
I want to define sci-fi.
Science fiction.
Science fiction is a genre of speculative fiction which typically deals with imaginative and futuristic concepts such as advanced science and technology. I guess it is.
Yeah, so he doesn't like sci-fi, not a big fan of superhero either, but he likes the Lord of the Rings series.
Oh. Well, that's fantasy.
It is fantasy, but he's not a lover of all things fantasy. But I'm convinced that the reason why he quite likes the Lord of the Rings series is because Tolkien was Christian. And my dad is a minister.
When The Fellowship of the Ring came out, I dragged my mum to see it on the opening day, which was Boxing Day in Australia. And we ran into the minister of her church at the time, who only came to see the film because, quote, Tolkien was a Christian. So, like, that drew a lot of people.
And it's such a Christian movie.
I mean, I'm sure there is a lot of symbolism.
I mean, actually, it's not that unchristian. You have kind of like the elves, and then you have like the one creator.
It's definitely not unchristian. Like, it's
Yeah,
very...
you have the one creator and the Dark Lord.
And, like, resisting
And
temptation.
then the bro of the Dark Lord.
Eventually going to heaven at the end when you sail off into the Grey Havens. And...
The ring is one big metaphor for...
Yeah, the ring is a metaphor for sex. Don't put on the ring.
And it's like the temptation between Frodo and Sam to do frivolous acts of homosexuality, but then they have to they have to burn the ring in the mountain.
Yeah, Tolkien specifically separates Frodo and Sam just for that implied sexual tension.
You gotta destroy the ring, Frodo.
I could carry it for a while.
He gets his finger bitten off. Yeah, I can see it now. I can see the Christian symbolism.
Oh, that last sentence, yeah, very sensual.
Forced castration. Throwing Gollum in there as well as another temptress. Like, will Frodo leave Sam for this hussy?
Yeah,
This ring-obsessed hussy?
he's like, yes, infidelity is bad and homosexuality is bad. How can we beat that with one in one storyline? How can we hit both of them?
And in the end, they're just good friends, and Sam marries a woman as was intended by God. I don't believe that. I'm just saying that for Christians.
You know, like, there's a lot of bromance going on in The Lord of the Rings, in the books especially.
Yeah, I mean, it's an almost exclusively male
I was
cast.
gonna say, isn't it? Are there like two women?
I mean, yeah, Eowyn, I guess, is like the main woman who does things. Arwen does things in the first film and then just sort of lies down.
And then you have Galadriel, who's just powerful and chills.
Hey, Galadriel just stands there. She has a, like, queen speech, which is good.
I could fuck stuff up if I wanted to, but I'm gonna stay in the forest. You guys got this.
This I could be a queen!
But I will have dinner instead. Mer.
Galadriel also resisted sexual temptation, like a good pure elf woman.
She did?
I mean, I don't think she did because she has kids, right? But married, probably married, so it's fine.
Oh, she is. She has like Celeborn, I think is her husband.
Not out of wedlock.
Elves out of wedlock. Gasp.
Whenever I think about the fact that there's only one series I love more in my life than One Piece, and that is Lord of the Rings, and the fact that I just dropped the series, like the TV show, after like 5 or 6 episodes is like heartbreaking to me. Like, I didn't even find out at the end who was Sauron. Was Sauron the king? Was he the wizard who fell from the sky? Was he the other dude? It's like, I don't know. I never watched until the
The
end.
thing that blows my mind is just the budget. It was, what, $1 billion that was spent on that series? Whereas the first 3 films had, like, a budget of less than $300 million.
Still looks nice. Looks equally nice.
It looks lovely, but I don't know.
Not caring about the characters.
I mean, I only got 1 episode in, so I can't really speak for Rings of Power. That's how quickly I kind of dumped it, which is a bit blasphemous, blasphemic. I don't know. It's a bit not good for someone like me who was obsessed with Lord of the Rings. Absolutely obsessed when those films first came out. It's a pretty big achievement to make me not interested in that world.
I mean, I think I'm not alone, like, when I say
You're never alone, Manu.
Lord of the Rings, that's true.
Or he's
But like
always
Lord of the Rings is like the only series, maybe not even like Harry Potter, like I've rewatched a couple of times, but Lord of the Rings, I've like I rewatch that every fucking year for Christmas.
Religiously.
It's like just a tradition. Yeah, religiously.
I rewatch them at least once a year as well.
So I'm gonna say something a bit blasphemic. I actually watched the first Lord of the Rings film a couple months ago.
We had this discussion.
It's not that I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it thoroughly, but for some reason, it kept putting me to sleep.
Oh, was there not enough explosions in there
Was
for
there not
you,
enough
Sophie?
aura effects for you, Sophie?
Not enough demon slaying going on.
I don't know what it is. I'm not even someone who needs a lot of action or like needs a lot of flash to enjoy things. But Lord of the
Or so
Rings
you thought.
specifically
But too sci-fi for you.
put me to sleep.
To be fair, it has the flute music and the
I think that
harpy,
might
the
be-
harps
yeah,
and
it's like-
everything.
it's
Like
the
the first 40
atmosphere.
minutes of Fellowship are very chill. And like,
It's very chill. It's like a nice slice of life.
no joke. I would
Oh
watch
my-
a slice of life Hobbit series where you just like go into the inner turmoil of like the Baggins and the Sackville Bagginses, and it's like a soap opera.
And you could easily make that. You just like the way you make this work is like that's 95% of the plot, and then you have one like meta sub like one
Yeah.
big thread for the Shire. So like
Yeah.
meta plot kind of. That's just occasionally peeking through here and there, kind of teasing stuff, and then in between it's just comedy and slice of life. It would be perfect.
Maybe it's set during the time when Frodo and co like leave the Shire, and it's just what was happening in the Shire during all that time, and then every now and then you get a bit of like a glimpse of the outside world that comes in. But it's just Hobbit drama. I would be so on board with that.
So you guys actually just care about the hobbits living in the Shire outside of the Frodos and the Samwises.
I think it could work because hobbits, they're just fun.
They're quite delightful.
They're really petty.
Actually, that I have a funny like little story because like I read Lord of the Rings while I was still learning English, and so I remember like distinctly in the first book in the Fellowship coming across like, and then Gandalf laughed gaily, and I was very confused as an English learner because I was not familiar with like older English language at that point.
I've recently listened to some of the Lord of the Rings audiobooks, and gay comes up a lot, as does the F word to refer to a bundle of sticks. Like, it gets said quite a bit, and given that this was...
Which one?
I'm not going to say it.
No, I think it's the slur.
It's a slur.
Oh, yeah. All right, now I see
Don't
what
make
you're
me
saying.
type it, Manu. You'll use this against me.
It's like screenshot. Review.
It's an old English word that means bundle of sticks. And so before it was adapted to its current meaning, it gets used a lot when the hobbits are camping and stuff. And the narrator says, well, Frodo just threw another F word onto the fire.
You know, from a like more tolerant 21st century perspective, it's kind of a cool word actually. It's kind of sad that became like derogatory, because bundle of sticks is kind of a fun way to describe like gay dudes.
Like there is a word for that. I think so too.
I feel like someone was like, ha, you know what would be funny if we used it as a word?
Not knowing how that happened, I'm not going to go so far as to say that, but yeah.
No, yeah. But like, I feel like in case you're wondering what we're talking about, like, when did Tolkien write this? Like after the war, shortly after the war?
I thought it was World War One. Oh my god, is it that recent?
Yeah, because there is definitely some Nazi, but it's like, it's been long enough ago that like there's like some fairly Old English.
Oh, okay. So this is amazing. It was written before, during, and after World War II. That's how long it took for Lord of the Rings to come together.
Wow.
Wow. Just the 3 books, or is it like the entire, I don't know, his world?
I think it was just Lord of the Rings, because The Hobbit was written before that, and The Silmarillion was completed by Christopher, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. His
There's
son.
a couple of books now. But in case you're wondering, like, gay means actually happy or merry in English originally. Which, again, such a great word.
I mean, well, gay's not a slur now, so...
I mean,
No.
if you go, like, really right-wing for some people, I'm sure it is.
I mean, yeah, people do still use it as a slur.
I mean, it used to be when we were in high school and stuff like that. Maybe not Sophie, but when I was in, like, primary
definitely
school, the
me
go-to
too.
insult was, "Huh, you're gay."
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely. But then, like, I feel like as like a 15-year-old teenage boy, like, I feel like everything was gay. No, was that your experience too in school? It's like, you read a book.
Yeah, no, it is. It could be used to describe anything.
Yeah,
It was a very
literally.
versatile word, but always negative.
Anything that's not talking about dicks, funnily enough, which which is the gayest thing that still all high school boys do for some reason, but that's accepted for some reason. So that's funny.
What do we all do, Manu? What did you do, more specifically?
Tell dick jokes.
Oh, dick jokes.
Tell dick
right.
jokes
Okay.
and stuff.
Dick jokes, drawing dicks on every book, on every public book that you
Yeah,
borrowed from
exactly. It
school.
was a dick
Drawing
obsession.
dicks,
Like,
just drawing penises all throughout class, like everywhere, anywhere, didn't matter. Like curly ones,
Yeah.
veiny ones, straight ones,
on the blackboard,
everywhere.
Curly ones, chode ones.
curly ones. But for some reason, that was like, that was not gay.
That was the coolest thing to do.
Now that I think
Yeah,
about it, my
drawing
all-boys school did have a shocking fascination with dicks, yeah.
I think it's actually the repression.
It's the time in your life as a guy where you like have to learn that like you're not supposed to talk about feelings and stuff like that.
There was definitely a lot of repression because the first year
for sure.
that my year was out of high school and into university, like half the year came out.
Oh shit!
Really?
Yeah. Like publicly came out.
I will say I don't think I know a single person from my class that came out,
Wow.
which is probably
A bunch
definitely
of-
bullshit.
Almost certainly. Statistically, unless you went to a school of like 2 people.
Did anyone come out whilst you were at school, Liam?
No. There were some that were obvious, like a handful that were obvious, but no. Like back when I was in high school, that would not have been an advisable thing to do.
Yeah, I wouldn't think so for your school. Because we had, like, there were students that came out during, like, school when I was still a high school, like, people in my cohort. But yeah, definitely more
Yeah.
afterwards as well.
I mean, to clarify, when I was in high school, gay marriage was still illegal.
Okay, you're not that much older than me, Liam, because when I was in high school, gay marriage was still illegal.
Oh, really?
I was about to say like,
I'm not that young.
dude, same-sex marriage was legalized in Germany in 2017, just like for a frame of reference. So that was when I was already finished with my bachelor's.
It feels similar to us. When was the plebiscite?
I want to say 2018.
It was actually 2017, 9th of December, 2017.
Oh, same year for you
There you go.
guys. Hmm.
I don't know why I would have expected it to be earlier for you.
Germany, I guess, just seems more utopian.
More progressive? Yeah.
Yeah, but we're fairly conservative in many things.
Maybe it's just all the nude beaches.
The nude, maybe.
No, that's what I mean. Like, you have
All of the nudes.
Nude beaches.
Yeah, the nude expressionism in theatre. I mean, it's Europe.
Europe.
Yeah,
There's
they're
dicks
all
everywhere.
Western
Right.
Europe, specifically. Less Eastern Europe.
No, like Germany is fairly like it's still a fairly Christian conservative country. Anyways, Sophie, much more interesting than Christianity in Germany is
yeah, you
have
pay
we
church tax.
any members to shout out?
We sure do. So, everyone say a thank you and a hello to Patrick C.
Hello,
Sup,
and thank you,
Patrick C.
Patrick C.
And to Alex.
Thank you, Alex.
Excellent, Alex.
And
No initial.
no, just
Just one name,
just
like
Alex.
Cher.
Just
Madonna.
Alex.
Alex, the X is for excellence.
It's really bold to try and be the top of the Alexes, but I respect it.
That is true.
All right, and everyone just say one to Kingsley as well.
It's like people called Aaron with 2 A's. Your parents really wanted you to be first in the list.
Even then, I knew 2 Aarons with 2 A's in primary school, so they were fairly common in my life, I feel.
I only know Aaron's with 2 A's. I do not know a single Aaron with only 1 A.
Yeah, in fact, that would be the way to go now.
The lesson there is name your kid Aaron with 3 A's. That's the way to go.
Aaron. Aaron. That sounds like a character out of Vinland Saga.
Just put an exclamation mark before your kid's name. Go full Elon Musk and it'll be in the top.
Or just open the dictionary, pick out the first noun you see, and name your child Blanket.
What is the first word in the dictionary? First word
Aardvark?
A.
in the English
Just
dictionary.
A, right?
I guess A is a word.
It's aardvark, yeah.
So that's 2 A's. It's super A.
What does that mean?
What is
I don't know.
aard?
Is it
Creature.
It's name?
Google it. It's an animal. It's an animal.
I searched up AA and it just came up as Alcoholics Anonymous.
It looks like a ground kangaroo.
You should seek help, Sophie. Sophie. Yeah, that's an interesting way of putting it. Like a ground kangaroo, pig, bilby, armadillo thing. It's a weird creature, but it's always the first in the dictionary.
Now looking at it, I'm kind of thinking, are kangaroos just armadillos without the shell?
No. kangaroos are massive, bro.
No, I was just kidding. But yeah, they do look kind of like a mix between kangaroo and armadillo, I feel.
We don't joke about kangaroos in Australia, Manu.
I can tell. I'm sorry
It's
if I offended you.
life-threatening.
They're our deities.
Fun fact, I actually today bought an air tag for my cat. Which at first I thought was a little bit of a stupid, wacky idea, but then I Googled it and it turns out that's actually a fairly common thing people do. So I felt confirmed in my decision.
Yeah, good job.
Goodbye.
I'm not judging you.
I lost my cat. Let me find my devices.
It's just another thing to you.
Anyways, thank you as always for becoming new members or being old members. We appreciate your support. Thank you
Or just
for still watching this podcast. Yes, I was getting there, Liam.
Too slow.
Wait.
Yeah. Why don't you finish the outro?
Okay, thank you. Bye.
So short.
Efficient, to the point.